This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Rajiv Dalal. He is a candidate for the California State Assembly, currently works as the executive director for the Multiple Sclerosis Hope Foundation, had worked with Mayor Eric Garcetti as the deputy film czar in the city of Los Angeles. But you also have worked in education reform. And I'm compelled to ask you about your trip to India about a decade ago, where you helped to set up a school?
I did, and thank you again for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I've always enjoyed these conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was about 12, 13 years ago, after I graduated from Georgetown. I went out to India, and I was doing work in the legal field, and I saw that the schools in the slums were failing the students.
And when you say slums, you mean slums.
I mean the slums, what you would see in Slumdog Millionaire.
Exactly.
It is not a pretty situation, but that's the reality in a lot of developing countries. These kids their parents would force them to work during the day, so they couldn't go to school. And what happened was, they would go to public school just for the free lunch, and then they'd leave and they'd go back to work.
Kidding.
Yeah, and people just kind of turned a blind eye to this, and it really wasn't a good situation, because you can never really get out of that situation.
Right. The class system. In a lot of ways, it's the caste class system.
Yeah, and so what we were able to do was, several of us got together. We went to through the slums. We knocked on every door. We talked to the parents and said, "Look, we can put together a model that works for you guys in the same way, or in a way that allows the students to go to school just for a couple hours a day, teach them math, reading, and hygiene." And we convinced them. We worked with the community, and we had several volunteers.
Where was this?
This was in Ahmedabad, in the state of Gujarat.
Near.
It's about an hour plane ride from Mumbai.
Got it.
And so that first day, in a makeshift building, we had 80 students show up.
Really?
And 12 years later, that program,
12 years later, that's almost K to 12.
Yeah. 12 years later, we're seeing the first ones go to college for the first time.
And they are going to college.
And they're actually going to college, or they're going into sales positions. And the school system itself has branched out into 4 locations throughout the city of Ahmedabad, servicing 300 students now.
Are you of Indian descent?
I am.
So as a result, I ask you, how does it make you feel that you were able to give back to the country from which you descend?
Well, I think that, it felt great, and we continue to financially support.
Oh, you do?
And when I go back to India every year, every 2 years, we'll certainly be there doing activity, playing cricket, chess, etc. with the kids.
Of course, cricket.
It's the big one, and showing movies. I mean, that's India, Bollywood and cricket.
I have to ask you though. I mean, here you are of Indian descent, but you open your mouth, you're American, And so, how is it to interact with folks from India as you walk in, good looking, you got a suit on, and you're speaking, perfect American English?
Well, I was born here, so I'm an American first and foremost. But you have to have your roots.
Do they appreciate you, or do they see you as someone? He's American.
No, not at all. I think that Indian Americans, just like any other ethnicity, if you know where you come from and both cultures, and we're working very closely together in a whole host of arenas. You basically draw the best from both worlds.
So I must ask you, that experience, how are you applying it now that you're home? Well, in America,
and I think that you certainly see a lot of parallels to the whole charter public school movement here in California. I mean, I really believe that the future of California it cannot be separated from the future of education. And right now, we're in a tough spot, because our test scores are 46th in the country.
Well,
our pupil spending is at 9,000 when the national average is 3,000. It is better. But when you're comparing us to states like New York, you're looking at 20,000 that they're spending. And I'm not saying it's all about spending money. There's a number of issues, but really what we were able to do in that slum school by conforming to the needs of the students, of the parents and the communities, is akin to what a lot of the charter schools have been able to do.
Let me ask you about the charter schools, because look, for some people, the charter schools are literally the second coming. I mean, they see them as the answer to all of education's woes. For others, they see them as union busting, institutions for the wealthy.
Right. Well, so I think there's two issues there. So let's break it down. The first is there are great charters that are performing very well, and there are charters that are not performing that well, and they need to be held to the highest standards possible. And the charters that aren't performing well should go. Right. Frankly.
Are they going?
They are. Yeah. I mean, and that's what keeps the momentum moving forward, and why folks like the Broad, Eli Broad and the Broad Foundation are trying to increase supply for all of the demand. But let's go back to your other question in terms of union busting. Now, I was just at Green Dot School.
Right. Yeah. Green Dot for our viewers statewide. Yeah, please.
Which is a school, a system it took over Locke High School in Watts, in one of the worst areas in southern Los Angeles, and they worked with the, they have a teachers union there.
Right. And some charters do have teacher unions.
And they're working
That's true.
hand in hand with the community, with the parents, with the students, and they've turned that school around in 7 years, from having a 20% graduation rate to a 70% graduation rate. It's absolutely amazing. Well, I'm doing a tour of a number of different charter programs, charter schools, Magnolia, KIPP, Huck, and really just trying to understand the best models that we can share across platforms.
Let me ask you about the district in which you are seeking to represent. So you have portions of that district with LAUSD.
Correct.
You have portions with, I assume, Burbank Unified, Glendale Unified, some of the better districts.
Right.
And so you got to be hearing a lot of different viewpoints on charters, public school education, because LAUSD, for better or for worse, its reputation is lacking at some level, whereas Burbank, Glendale, locking out. I mean, it's considered very strong.
So yeah, but I think what we have to keep in mind is that the state assembly, which I'm running for, is not just about the district that you're in. I mean, it's an upper middle class district that I come from. But across the state, we've got to get the system right. And even though La Cañada and Burbank and Glendale schools may be at a higher, performing at a higher standard,
but in a lot of ways, you got a great bird's eye view because your district's at some level a microcosm of a lot of portions of the state. Even though at some level upper middle class, there are portions of it that are not.
Right.
And LAUSD portions where, boy, they'd love to have a charter down the street.
Yeah, and in our district we have 2 charters. So it's not a district with a huge amount of charters.
And are they in the LAUSD portion or in the other district portions?
Correct.
Okay.
So frankly speaking, but it really is about reaching across and finding systems that work the best for each community, right?
And how will you reach across? Because you're running as a Democrat, and the Democratic Party has an interesting relationship with the charter movement. There are a lot of Democrats who love charters, a lot of Democrats who can't stand them.
Well, look, I think I spent the last couple of years working with the State Federation of Labor and the County Federation of Labor on the motion picture and television jobs bill. We're not gonna agree on everything, but much like that Green Dot model, there are models that work where you can bring labor and you can bring management and families and communities together. And I think that smart solutions take smart people in the room. And some of the labor folks are some of the smartest people. And I think if you're talking about education, or even if you're talking about the pension issue, you've got to have everybody at the table to talk about what the best shared experience is.
I hear you. His name is Rajiv Dalal. He is a candidate for the California State Assembly representing the 43rd Assembly District, currently serving as the Executive Director of the Multiple Sclerosis Hope Foundation. My name is Brad Pomerance, and this is Charter Local Edition.